What you just heard is the announcement that it's 10 o'clock here at the local veteran cemetery, where I'll be someday, hopefully uh, down the road. We'll see. This cancer recovery is very frustrating, believe me. I'm trying not to get too angry or frustrated or down about it, but I'll tell you what, it's just been really tough this year. Welcome to Sullivan's Project Spacefest 2017 for Spacefest 8 Part 7. And here we're only going to have one mission, but it's a pretty long one. It's the last flight of Discovery. Nicole Stott was on that one, and that's a really fun video to watch. And so I'm going to have all these out later today, including this part. So just to let you know, if you don't see them ahead of time, when you do see them after you've met these astronauts, you'll know more about who they were and the great things they accomplished. But we also have some very special guests that are not on the program, the space program, as far as astronauts. And there's people who either know a lot about space or have worked in the space industry, or just happen to know a lot. And I've already told you about Robert Brand and Dr. Alan Stern. I'm very excited about seeing both of those people again. Just really great people. Dr. Alan Stern has been somebody I've always wanted to meet, and finally we're going to probably this week meet him at last, and I really can't wait. Been very much looking forward to that. Ed Rezak was also out of NASA Goddard, the people responsible for the Hubble Space Telescope and this new one that can't get off the ground. They sent it up for testing, but I keep telling them, don't fix it until it's broke. Just put the thing on a launch pad and get it up there, and just hope the Europeans don't blow everything up getting into space. James Webb has always been one of those very frustrating programs for me, because like the shuttle program, after it probably should have been revamped or canceled, there's a lot of collateral damage in keeping those programs going, including like the X-38, the X-40A, which became the X-37B. Just all those programs got canceled. I think that technology is there now to put the X-33 back up, because ironically enough, it's a Lockheed plane, but Boeing actually developed the composite tape that solves the problem Lockheed was having. And now that they're working together at United Launch Alliance, maybe they can work something out to get something like the X-33 back up there. But yeah, that program is also canceled, partially for funding and partially for technology. But we're over that hill. Dr. Alan Stern is a must-meet. Robert Brand for sure. Mark Larson's an old friend of mine in San Diego. I had no idea he was even involved at all in Spacefest. I might not see him because it sounds like he's going to be in and out. But I'd like to see Mark again. Funny story, when I was in Tampa, after I met the one in San Diego, there's this other clown that used the same radio name but changed like the O to an E so we could get away with it without getting sued. But everybody kept thanking him for all the great stuff the guy in San Diego is doing, so that was kind of funny. It'd be really nice to see him again. Back when I was in Southern California from 94 to 2001, ran into Merck quite a lot over at his KCPQ station, so I'd just be great to catch up with him as well. Amy is not pronounced the way I said last time. It's actually Amy Shira Title, like the title to a car. I said Title like Altel. No, it's title like title. She's got a lot of great videos out there. They all have huge hits. I'd love to find out her secret, except for just good looks and a cat. But she's really smart and she's really good at this. And so somebody who does what I do, I've always really looked up to her, so I look very much forward to seeing her again too. I don't want to short out anybody here. So let me see who I'm missing here. Leonard David. It's been quite a while since I saw him. He's a very famous journalist with Space.com and his own stuff. Last time he wasn't here, but they sent a couple other guys out here from Space.com. He's really a great guy, very smart. Nobody knows more about the space program on the inside to a almost ridiculous amount as far as trivia. And he not only knows our program, but he knows the Chinese program, the Russian program. Just one of the smartest guys out there, and very humble, I would like to admit too. see who else we're missing here. Charlie Baker. Charlie Baker is he. I like him already because he still says Dryden instead of Armstrong. But anytime you see a shuttle land or the X-15 land out there in California, he is very much involved. And my interest in Edwards has always been very high because of the lifting body and X-15 projects out there where they have the right stuff. So I don't know what Hugh Dryden did wrong, but they renamed the base to Neil Armstrong Base. So it's right there at Edwards Air Force Base. So anytime you see the California with the big lake bed in these videos, you're seeing something that Charlie Baker's connected to. So I can't wait to meet him as well too. He's a really big wig, very experienced, very smart guy out there. And he already knows everybody that lives in California, like Dan Sprand and the late great Milt Thompson, late great Bill Dana. It's so many people we've lost, but there's still a couple out there, so I'm glad he's still out there too, because he knows these programs inside and out. And like I said, if you get out to the Pima Air and Space Museum, you're going to see NASA B-52 that dropped the X-15 MB-003, and I can't believe they even flew it here, because that means it's so old. I think it was an A version, maybe a B version, but it's like they're like up to H or L now for B-52s. But these things have the longest service, but the least flight hours. So go figure that out. It's because they don't go fly 12-hour bombing missions. They go up there, drop a plane, and come back. That's basically all they did. But they kept in really good shape. So MB-003 is here at the Pima Air and Space Museum, so check it out. And with that, let's get on with Clay Anderson and STS-131 and Nicole Stott, STS-133, the final flight of Discovery. God bless, thanks for watching. Catch you at Spacefest tomorrow, Thursday, then Friday, then Saturday, and maybe even Sunday. I may have to juggle my church around a little bit, but I'll try to get over there Sunday as well. God bless.
Spacefest 8 2017 by Sullivan's Projects. Already some group out of Europe blocked part 3 of this. I've contested that with YouTube to get that back up. It is all used open source NASA footage, my editing, my narration, so we're going to get that problem fixed. This is STS-133, the last valid launch of a space shuttle. 2 more would go up. 134 would go up with Mark Kelly as a paperweight, $2 billion worth of paperweight plus mission cost, and 135 would go up. I can't remember why. Do you? To keep the guys on the ground having checks coming in while they worked on selling their house and getting out of town. That's why. Here they are. This is the most classic moment of the entire 135 mission space program in the National Space Transportation System, as it was first called. The shuttle itself is now considered to be the orbiter. They can now consider the whole stack type. Look at this. We have a moment in silence and prayer in memory of the 14 astronauts lost in space, the several technicians lost on the ground during this program that are often forgotten, and the many people who were alongside me that crashed and died on their way to and from launches. So here we are on Discovery, the final mission, and like I said before, this is the one that Nicole Stott worked on for so many years before. They were so impressed with her, they threw her in a suit, threw her up on 128. She came down on 129, and now she's going back home on 133. But something happened. I was in Felipe Park to film this, and we hit T0, and there was no liftoff. So about 5 minutes later, I said, well, there went the launch window. So I went back to my car and put the cameras in the back seat And it just happened when I sat down, the car was facing east, and sure enough, there was 26 later after launch, Space Shuttle Discovery climbing up the east coast of Florida on its way to orbit. Mike Limbach overrode actually the 35th space, the 45th Space Wing commander overrode a decision by the range safety officer. I still haven't figured out what was going on there, but they had decided at Patrick Air Force Base to put this thing on hold past the launch window. They had 2 seconds left. 2 seconds left in the launch window. Like I said, 5 minutes later than scheduled. When they finally, very late in the launch window, lit her up and she went. And they had to do a lot of mid-course corrections during ascent to get back on path to where the station was, because in those 5 minutes the station had traveled quite a distance away. So they'd have to adjust their course on the way up to meet it. One last time they do rudder and steering checks, gimbaled the engines, and made sure everything was good. But since Nicole had worked on this vehicle for so many years, believe me, it was good. The most experienced and trouble-free shuttles in the whole program, and we'll give astronaut Nicole Stott and all of her co-workers down there on the ground a whole lot of credit for that. 2 minus 2 minutes, the crew is instructed to close and lock their visors, initiate O2 flow, clear all the alarms, and after that, it's just waiting for the T minus 31 second mark, at which time the shuttle itself, the GP computers on board the shuttle, will take control of the mission. And for 10 seconds, they'll light up the engines, make sure they're all up to speed and working. And when they are, the decision is made to light the solids at T0, and there she goes. Final launch of Space Shuttle Discovery, with Clearwater astronaut Nicole Stott back on board. Her home, same one she went up the first time with, to go back to her very familiar home, International Space Station, now complete. And on 131, 2 flights earlier, they had put up a new thing that became very popular with the astronauts on the International Space Station, and that's that window to space. Much better view, panoramic view of the Earth on a nice little looking tower that you'll see once they get up there. What you're seeing here, like I said, is the coast of Florida. They're taking off on a 51.6 degree inclination, and they have a lot of catching up to do to meet the station, so they're going to do quite a lot of course adjustments going up because of the late takeoff. And this is about that point, like I said, I'm 188 miles away looking at this, just wondering how the heck they just even got it off the ground. I thought they missed the launch window, but they had 2 seconds left when they did leave. And here for the final time, we see the 3 shuttle main engines, all recycled for the upcoming STS program. The ones you see in the museums are replicas. You see that flame going up? That's a little vacuum created. And it always burned the backside of the ET, and I was always, every time they show the footage of the ET after it separates, you'll see the back end of it has been scorched. And it's just a phenomenon based on the shape of the shuttle that they didn't plan on in the computers and simulators. But it never got hot enough, and it never got up to the engines because they blew all that back. But it's always interesting to watch that backdraft of fire. And finally, here we are from the solid rocket boosters, watching Discovery go one last time. At this point, it's about 2 minutes and 7 seconds into the flight. At this point, they're really gunning it, climbing up to twice the altitude, to peak altitude. Then they'll flip it back upside down from where they are now, and they'll change communications links from line of sight UHF over to that's air to ground, as they call it. They'll switch it to the satellites, and we'll both be talking to satellites now scattered all over the planet at geosynchronous orbit. So here we watch it go away from not only me in Felipe Park watching this, But the launch pad itself, it's about 820 miles away when it finally shuts down these engines after emptying these tanks. And so, like I said before, the astronauts always preferred to fly this way into orbit, and before they had enough heat receptor, they stayed in this attitude to discard the tank. But about the 4-minute mark past negative return, I guess they'll stay here for another 2 minutes to climb. At 6 minutes, they'll reach peak altitude and flip it. See that debris? They'll flip it the other way, and they'll have heads up, which looks normal to you and me, not them. And at that point, they'll lose all view of the Earth, which is why they didn't like to fly that way. But they have good instrumentation, but it does allow them to stay in contact with Mission Control in Houston via the TDRS satellites. And one of the accomplishments of the shuttle program in those many years of flying that thing was they started out with 0 and had very difficult communications. And they were really wired in really well, almost anywhere in the world, with satellites capable of transmitting television, all sorts of KU and S-band and sidebands and emails and all sorts of things. They have a very good firewall keeping the station computers safe from hacking, probably because nobody knows anything that old or antiquated. It's probably all 8-bit, but they have really good security up there, so that's not a concern. So that's why you can tweet them. When you tweet to them, you're talking to a person on the ground, and if they tweet you back from space, it's going through a middleman who's looking at one screen and typing on a secure screen going up to the station, and then the response is relayed back the same way. They don't have any direct communications to anybody on this very dangerous World Wide Web. It's all segregated by a really good firewall, physical firewall, and a person in between that is connecting the two manually. And so here we are at our last point in the mission before they do the rollover. And by now they're hundreds and hundreds of miles at peak altitude. And they'll start actually, like I said, very slowly they'll start gliding downhill, and they're just going to be gunning it for speed. At that point, they're still in the atmosphere. You really can't tell because it looks like space, but it's really high in the ionosphere. And you're going to start seeing plasma develop as they get faster and faster. And here's that roll we're talking about, all accomplished by just swiveling those engines we saw move before launch. And I remember this late afternoon very well. Right, we're looking at the same sunset that I saw from Felipe Park, and by then I had lost all sight of the shuttle. But the reason I did not know that thing was still operational is normally there's a 321 area code dial-in provided by the NASA PAO at Kennedy, and that thing just got so jammed up I kept getting disconnected or I couldn't get through. And by the time I finally did, it was about at this point, and I could finally tap in live, which I always attach to my videos is the live feed, not the streaming, because streaming was always several seconds behind. But this 321 telephone dial-in access allowed anybody that can get in to have live feed as it's happening, usually just tapped off of the same one going out to the news organizations and to the other NASA centers and everybody else. But the rest of the world like to watch this on streaming video. But the problem with that, like I said, is it's several seconds behind. So in order to keep everything timely, I dialed it in, but just couldn't get through this time until very late after launch. And here's the plasma ring developing around the shuttle. Very, very, very fast. They're getting themselves up to 17,500 miles an hour while still in the atmosphere. They drop the tank while still in the atmosphere. And you can tell the main engine shut off by that little ball of flame back there. That's what happens right when they cycle the engines down and they start. Everybody inside is now at 0 G. And the next thing, for the last time, a tank will drop off the bottom of the shuttle. And there she goes. She's in space. That's what they say anyway. They have another ohms burn to actually get up to a higher orbit and into what's really space. And 2 days later, Discovery approaches the International Space Station, the very complete International Space Station, minus the 2-pound or $2 billion paperweight that Endeavour would take up on the next mission. Here she is showing off and being inspected by cameras and everything else. And they've also done the one with the boom, like we said before. I just cut that part out. And here's the same hatch we saw Nicole close. The shuttle's approaching and it's docked. Welcome home, Nicole. She had heard all about this couple that they had attached to the station since her last visit. And as you can see, she doesn't waste any time sitting around and chit-chatting. She takes off and goes right for that thing because she's heard so much about it. And it's really one of the most impressive additions since she had spent so much time here only a few missions before. And once again, she's getting there on Discovery. There she is. She's still looking great, I'll tell you. I like I said, I talked to her in Clearwater between these missions, and she's just so much fun, and it's just such a joy to be around, and such a class act. Okay, she's seen everybody, I think, and she's out of there. Mark Kelly had to have his mission shifted because they decided to do some adjustments to the schedule based on what 119 was going through, and so that ruined the press gimmick. They were supposed to have the first brothers in space. Here's Scott Kelly, who was the station commander, and his brother was supposed to meet him on this during his time up here. As it turned out, he had to go down to the ground before Mark could get up there, so that's what happened. He did, and he went back to the ground, and that was that. And so they missed each other, not by long. But if Gabby wasn't on the SciTech committee, there would have never been the political arm wrestling going on to make that happen. But as it happened, technology and God kept it from happening anyway. It was just all a stunt. Here's the couple, and here goes Nicole checking it out. She's just enjoying the heck out of this ride. She already knows where everything is, so nobody had to give her the $2 tour. So she's explaining how wonderful she sees this thing, and what you can see from there that you couldn't see before they put this in. Just so much. It's so much fun. It's fun watching her having fun like this, you know. It really is. She's back in the first area where they control the robot arms on the station and make sure that they properly move everything around. Actually, I would almost guarantee this almost looks like the back end of the shuttle. It probably is. There's the spacewalk underway. So they're looking at it from many new angles now, looking at things they couldn't see before, and a lot more eyes on the mission when something's going on outside. And like I said, she's an experienced spacewalker herself, and her profile pictures and avatars will beat mine any day of the week. It's just so amazing how big that station is now. It blows me away every time I see it. And every compartment's all different. You got to always keep in mind where you are in case something happens. You know which way to go for what sound you're hearing on the alarms that go off, and they do every once in a while. Normally it's an ammonia leak from the cooling system that keeps the station down to 72 degrees. Because like Skylab had a really big problem when they first got aboard. They had to figure out a way to cool it down. And so far the only problem they've had here is coolant leaks. They've been hit by micrometeorites a couple times, but it's not going to be enough to put holes in the thing through and through. And believe me, they have enough repair kits to put plugs into most holes, both from the inside and the outside. Once something breaks as far as a hole, the air is going to go out, not vacuum in, so you can plug it. So far, so good. A lot of nightmare scenarios that haven't happened, thank God, so far yet, and hopefully won't before they deorbit this thing. and get everybody off. Right now, the limitations seem to be funding for missions to resupply and reman it and operate all the gear from the ground. So it's still kind of more of a jobs program than a space program, but they still are getting a lot of research done up there, just like they did with the Space Hab and Mirror before that. They're just having a real big blast up here. Just look at those guys having so much fun. This was just Nicole had told me before, this was just all fun for her. They got a lot of work done. It was a very, very busy schedule, but they certainly enjoyed every second of this. All smiles all the way through until the hatch closed, and after that, I don't think I ever saw her smile again. There's another paperweight up there. I still don't know why they even put it up there. Supposedly it can do EVAs, without risking people, so it's never been used from what I know. Here's a signature guest book for everybody who's lived aboard the station. Minus the 8 that would go up later on the later 2 shuttle missions, and all the cosmonauts that have been there since. She's just such a character. I just love her to death. Believe it or not, what I'm most proud of her for is the fact that she's an awesome wife and mother, and she doesn't share that personal life of hers very much, but it's true. Her first job was not lost when the shuttle program went down, and that's to be an awesome mother and wife. And she is certainly that. And she's certainly, since I've had cancer, been of importance you would never believe as far as encouragement and prayer. And here we are with Scott Kelly and his crew, and Nicole and her crew, and they're having one last photo op. And you can tell that the smiles are starting to fade. It's time to go. All you see right now is polite smiles, and not too many of those. It was really a really great run, guys. I really just appreciate Nicole from beginning to end on this program, because she was part of Discovery long before she launched on there. They're enjoying an oxygen bar. She's not smelling his neck for the cologne. She's checking out the oxygen coming out of the pipe. Like I said, they just love this so much. Final press conference before departure. This is the change of command ceremony or something. And finally, that's the last smile you're going to see on this mission, because Discovery is departing for the last time, and that is that. And one of the last shots we have of Discovery in space, it's now in the Smithsonian. They moved the Enterprise out and put Discovery in there. I wonder if Nicole ever gets up there to see it. I imagine she probably does. There's the shuttle and the station together for the last time, and there's a lot of Soyuz and things like that docked up there as well. And here's another press conference with Discovery as they spend their last day in space. Just a lot of pride going on here, but you don't see a lot of smiles because they know that this one's coming to an end. This book's closing, and the next one has yet to be opened, but we're in between the covers now. And we'll get there. All right, here's Discovery coming in. Gonna make a left-hand turn for runway 15, which means that Nicole would have landed both ways. Last time she landed on 33. Now it's beginning its turn in the heading alignment circle, and they're gonna head to the north. Just a couple of minutes ago, they were going Mach 4.2, and now they're down to less than Mach 1, and so they're making their subsonic turn to the left, and they're on at the 180. So now they're facing almost a little bit past north. They continue to make that turn. The pilot will switch over to the commander, who will take manual control for the rest of the mission. On at the 90, they're heading straight west now. Here's the coast of Florida. You can see the way they're turning. And they're heading just north of Orlando now. And completing that turn. And they're past the turn, heading south now. Or turning to the south. And when you see it even out, it'll be on course and on glide slope for the runway. Runway 15 is 150 degrees on the 360. And you can see, if not now, very soon, the runway is now projected past the clouds. Through the microwave landing system, they can actually compute exactly where everything is. So they can see that point a mile short of touchdown they're aiming for right now. And they're keeping the speed in order to make the pre-flare maneuver. And so it's just wonderful to watch this. One last punch through the clouds, and the runway will be in sight. There she is, right on the mark. So he's lifting the nose up now in his flare, going from a nosedive to a horizontal glide. And for the last time, they are approaching Kennedy Space Center and lowering the landing gears. And 3 down and locked. No power and no way to turn around if this doesn't go right, so there's no bingo. They just got to make the most of it, and they did every time. And so here they are. One final time for Discovery. Main gear touchdown. Shoots. Nose gear touchdown. Welcome home, Discovery. The most experienced shuttle in the fleet. 365 days in space. Once again, get out and see all these guys at Spacefest. Nicole is really awesome, and if you get a chance, do not let her go by without saying hi to her. Once again, thank you all for watching this very enjoyable production. There will be more parts to this, but they'll all be filmed at Spacefest with the people there, with these astronauts. God bless.